Thank you. It's 8:33 right now, and a 2-year delay in the plan to shut down Rikers Island drew harsh criticism from elected officials at a rally outside City Hall yesterday.
Rikers must close by 2027, and we cannot allow it to continue undermining public safety issues across our city. Month after month, we see someone lose their life on Rikers at levels that are nearly unprecedented, with 19 people having died in our jail system in 2022, making it the deadliest year in a decade.
So in an unprecedented move, City Council Speaker Adrian Adams right there expected to chair a City Council budget hearing for the Department of Corrections. And joining us this morning to address these concerns and more is New York City Corrections Commissioner Louis Molina. So, Commissioner, good to see you this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So you just heard from Adrian Adams right there. She was frustrated over the fact that there may or may not be on track to close Rikers Island in 2027. What is the likelihood that the jail complex will actually close in 2027?
Well, given that the City Council passed a local law that the island does close in 2027, then we are following the law and the island is going to close.
So if it does close and the borough-based jails are not ready, for Mayor, for example, so the Brooklyn one is non-track, are the other boroughs on track to open in 2027? And if not, where do they go?
Yeah, so the on-track pace could better be answered by the Department of Design and Construction because they're overseeing the development of the new borough-based jails. But that is the question, right, that the City Council, I think, needs to think about, is what we're thinking about, is where do the person in custodies go? Our population has been just over 6,000, and we predict that our population by September of 2024 will be 7,000. So it's a question that needs to be answered and really thought about before we get to 2027.
The mayor said, 2027, that's it. There's no other way to look at it. But he said then, if this doesn't work, there has to be a plan B. What would that plan B even look like?
Yeah, so we're in discussions to think about what that plan B would look like. There's opportunities where possibly detainees could be placed in other jurisdictions to be housed. That would be inefficient, in my opinion, to do that. So we have to talk with members of the elected officials on the council and have constructive conversations of how do we manage the jail system of this city.
One of the council members yesterday at that rally, Lincoln Ressler, had talked about how there have been previously declines in the population in previous administrations, but it seems the population is going up. And you just hinted at saying 6,000 now, and you anticipate it going up to 7,000. Why is the number going up?
So the number's going up primarily because the adjudication of justice, our court system, is not moving fast enough. So our average length of stay have increased. So prior to the pandemic, our average length of stay was about 80-something days. Mm-hmm. During the peak of COVID, it rose to 140 days and has settled now to 115 days. There's a backlog of cases for detainees that are charged with very violent crimes. Mm-hmm. For example, we have over 1,000 detainees that are charged with murder. Those trials take time to see through the courts. And as arrests come in for violent crimes, there's a backlog of cases with our court system.
Bottom line is there are still inmates there. And you've expressed concerns about the safety for inmates and correction officers. Has the safety improved?
Yeah, so we have been stabilizing the system, and safety has improved. I'm happy to just share with you today that assaults on staff, fiscal year to date, are down 42%. Slashing and stabbings department-wide are down 16%. Calendar year to date, through our first quarter of 2023, slashing and stabbings are down 35%. So things are improving. We are stabilizing the system. But given the magnitude of all the damage and the dismantelization that was done to our criminal justice system from 2015 to 2021, what we've accomplished over the last 15 months has been a Herculean task.
Yeah. So you use the word stabilize, right? So let's take a look at some of the other numbers. 19 inmates lost their life at Rikers Island last year. So far this year, the number sits at just one death reported at Rikers Island, right? So you talk about the stabilization. What are some of the things that you implemented in your administration that seem to be working, that maybe weren't there in the past?
Sure. So a number of things. I think one is we entered into an organizational health strategy to support our uniform and non-uniform staff. What that has done is that it has decreased staff absenteeism by 73%. It wasn't long ago, 15 months ago, we had over 2,600 persons out sick at any one time. That number has been significantly under 700. And when you think about people calling in sick, on an average, about 100, 120 people may call in sick in a given day. Our indefinite sick, individuals that were out sick 30 days or more, there used to be 1,200 people in January of 2022. That number today sits around 400, and those individuals are recovering from work-related injuries, being assaulted by detainees, or others that are recovering from something like cancer. So the numbers have come down significantly. We've significantly improved our medical production. So we have, like I said, just under 6,000 detainees in custody. Correctional Health Services schedules over 500,000 medical encounters a year. For non-escorts, that number of staff unavailable to bring someone to like a dental appointment is under 1%. So we've made significant strides. We brought back tactical search operations. We've recovered over the last 15 months over 5,000 weapons and over 1,300 contraband narcotics. We've done canine contraband narcotics interdiction, and now we're doing body scanning of staff coming into facilities.
Yeah, but nevertheless, they still feel a little unsafe. Some of the officers still being attacked within the jail. What else is being done to make them feel more safe?
So I engage, and my senior leadership team engage with the staff on a daily basis, right? Regardless of what rank the staff member is or if they're uniform or non-uniform. When I tour the jails and I speak with staff, there is a sense of calm in our facilities today that wasn't present for a long, long time. I'm sure there are some staff members, we had 18 female staff members last year that were sexually assaulted. That's a really traumatic thing to overcome and survive. So I understand from their point of view, if they don't feel safe, and in an organization made up of 43% of women, which is something to be very, very proud of as a law enforcement agency, I get it. And every day we support our staff to make sure that they have a good work-life balance and can come to a workplace that is safe.
So in terms of safety as well, a lot of it has to do with contraband that might make its way inside the jails. And earlier this week, the New York City Board of Corrections voted against a ban of inmates receiving physical mail. Now, you supported the effort to digitize the mail.
Yes.
What was the reasoning behind supporting that measure? Because does the mail get searched physically before it makes its way to an inmate anyway?
Yeah, so not all of the mail. So the volume of mail that we get on average is about 1,000 letters a day. Non-legal mail, we're talking about personal letters, and another significant amount of packages that may come in from loved ones. So given the volume of mail that is coming in, and given that this country is under an overdose epidemic happening in our country, and with the introduction of fentanyl, I want to be able to keep people safe. The Board of Corrections decision not to take any action, I believe, is very, very irresponsible. It's disappointing because all it is doing is placing our staff and people in custody safe by exposing them to fentanyl.
But is there no way to screen those letters before it makes its way to an inmate, regardless if you digitize it or not?
So we've evaluated that, and the reason why we wanted to go to digitization is because it's the safest way to mitigate against any contraband narcotics coming in through non-legal mail.
Okay.
We would take significant staffing resources to inspect every letter. We're talking 250,000 to 300,000 letters a year to be physically inspected by staff.
Yeah, there's so much more we would like to talk to you about. I know you're going before the City Council next week.
Yes.
So make sure you come back, and we'll
always
revisit
happy
this
to.
topic.
Thank you for having me.
Commissioner, thank you.